Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome. I hope you are doing well. It's Friday. It's Q&A day. Let's hang out and answer some questions. I hope you're doing well today. It is August 29th. That's crazy. Time is flying. The application cycle is flying. But that's all right. We're here to answer your questions. I'm here to answer your questions. Hopefully give you some encouragement on this crazy process. What's going on? How are y'all doing today? Hope you're doing well. Just out for a stroll in my garage on my treadmill, hanging out, having fun. Yeah, how's it going? I don't know if you all heard the news. Not Taylor and Travis. That's old news. The new news of the MCAT registration changing. So that was a big change. The MCAT registration now opens in October, which it always has. But this year, you have to register in October for all of the dates for 2026. It's not just the first half of the year like it's historically been. It's only historically it was October for January through June, and then February registration for July through September. So that has changed. Nettie, I know this may be a very dumb question, but can you explain secondary applications? Heck yeah, let's explain secondaries. Let me put this question over here. It'll look like it's coming from me, but it's coming over from Instagram. So secondary applications. Secondary applications are after primary applications. So the primary applications, we have three main primary applications in this country. We have MCAS for most DO school or MD schools. We have ACOMAS for most DO schools. We have TMDSAS for the public Texas schools, and Baylor. Baylor is kind of the oddball because Baylor's a private school, but it's part of TMDSAS. So those are the primary applications. Those are the first applications that you send in, which is why we call them the primary ones. You have to send those in for the schools to know that you are applying to them. After the schools get your primary application, the majority of them then send you a secondary application. And the secondary application generally consists of more targeted essays specifically for that school. They want to know some specifics about your fit there, your mission, your drive, any potential issues with your courses, your grades, and so you have an opportunity to explain that there. That's what that is for. And then after you submit your secondary applications, you then go on to the interview phase and all that good stuff. So that's what the secondaries are. All right. Veronique. I accidentally said the clinic I'm an MA at has max of 60 patients in the secondary, which was different number from what I said in my primary. Am I screwed, or will the discrepancy keep me from getting an interview? I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't think it matters. I would wonder what the discrepancy actually is. Like, what were the two numbers that you threw out? I'm sure it's fine. I wouldn't worry about it. Awesome. What else is going on, you all? The AAMC was nice this year. For next year, we do have a new February MCAT date that is new for 2026. 2025, there was an MCAT date, and their MCAT date in February, but that was more of there was an issue with registration, as there always is. But there is one date in February that's going to be a standard date, and then we'll kind of see, the AAMC will see how that goes. I think that's part of the reason why they're moving all of the registration stuff to October, because the team, the AAMC MCAT team, will be working on the actual test date, and they don't want to be distracted with registration stuff. All right. I said 75 points in the primary, 60 in the secondary. I wouldn't worry about that, because technically you could have potentially, right? Your clinic could have switched from 75 to 60 in the time between your primary and secondary application. So I wouldn't worry about that. I would even wonder why did you put such a minute detail in the application to begin with? What does it matter? 75 patients, 60 patients. What were you hoping to accomplish with saying that? That would be my question. Oh, I'm on the wrong sound here. Let me switch my sound. Probably get a little bit better sound there. Sorry about that. That was silly. Hopefully this is better. All right. What else is going on? Just want to show how busy it gets. Yeah, I think that's the obvious answer. But again, the question is why? What is your goal? Be like, look at me, I can handle the pressure. Like, to me, that's the sales pitch stuff that isn't super needed. We heard you just fine. Not much difference. Good. The MacBook speakers are working well. But now the sound should be coming from that microphone that I just tapped. I was told that older applicants, late 20s, come on, man, would be judged for never holding a full-time job. Is that true? No, that's just ridiculous. That is ridiculous. I'm getting my steps in and multitasking. I'm walking almost every single day on all my calls, unless I'm actually like recording a video or a podcast episode. I'm trying to walk as much as possible, but I just started for the day, so only half a mile in. I was doing the same thing. Sit and enjoy your lunch. I'm not here to guilt trip you. Paul says, hello, Medical School HQ. Love your videos. Love how real you are about the process. Could I ask if my work is considered clinical? Go for it. Ask away. That's what we're here for. Answer questions and make people feel bad that they're not walking. Apparently. Oh, man. If you didn't know, the Premed Years is the podcast that I've been hosting for 12 years now, coming up on 13 years. We have over 600 episodes. We just launched the Med School Years podcast that two amazing advisors on my team do. So you can transition from, okay, I was listening to the Premed Years podcast. That got me into med school. Now I'm going to the Med School Years podcast, and that's going to get me through med school and into residency. So go check that out. The 2 Miles Empathy Project, I'm 39, got accepted last cycle. You want to come on the podcast? Unless you have come on the podcast. I don't know that. I don't think you have. It's one of my problems. I have a terrible memory for people, but I don't know that name. I mean, I see you on the Instagram lives all the time, but I don't think we've talked.
Current third-year med student. My sister is about to be going through the application process. Has much changed in the last couple of years? No, I mean, the big change, potentially, I forget, was probably about 3 years ago. So I'm not sure where you're at. Was the affirmative action SCOTUS decision, which the AAMC was getting on board already with changing the disadvantaged applicant question or essay to the other impactful experiences essay. That's really the biggest change, is that one essay. I think it's the same essay, just with a new name, a new prompt. So I work at a TBI home and I work night shift, basically clean most of the night, wake up the people who live there every 2 hours to use the bathroom, and in the morning I get to make them breakfast. So cleaning most of the night, you're not cleaning the patients, you're cleaning the room, the facilities. That is a little bit more of a concern. Waking them up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, potentially better in terms of clinical. Are you actually like going to the bathroom with them, helping them with what we call the ADLs, the activities of daily living? If you're doing that, I think potentially call that clinical. Making them breakfast, I wouldn't consider clinical. See, it doesn't sound the best in terms of best bang for your buck. It really depends on that bathroom part. So you have to use lifts to get them there. Potentially, I would call that clinical. All right. So this is a very common question that we get. Can I compensate for low GPA in my overall application? What activities do I need to focus on as I build my profile? Nothing compensates a low GPA. A low GPA is only fixed by a strong upward trend. And so if you have a 2.7 GPA right now, you probably need about 30, 40, 50 credit hours to show an upward trend, and those 30, 40, 50 credit hours as close to a 4.0 as possible, and almost exclusively science courses to get that job done. That will help medical schools see a difference between who you were and who you are in terms of a student and your academic abilities. Because ultimately, they don't care about your activities if you haven't proven that you can handle medical school. That's it. If they don't think you're going to pass medical school, they don't care about you curing cancer. So you got to work on your GPA. And a lot of times, depending on how big of a hole you dug for yourself, the impact of those initial GPAs, your initial grades, your final GPA may only be a 2.9, a 3.0, 3.1, but your last, again, 30, 40, 50, 60 credit hours are as close to a 4.0 as possible. For the schools where that matters, that's huge. So go for it. If I got rejected from my early decision program before October 1st, is it possible for me to then apply to other schools, or do I have to wait until October to apply to new schools? No, as soon as you know your early decision, you're free to apply to other schools, assuming it's a rejection. The early decision timeline is just medical schools have until the end of September to give that decision. And then you're frozen from applying to other schools until you have that decision. As soon as you get that rejection from your early decision, you're free to apply elsewhere. Is a semester of research about 200 hours enough? Research for us is the least important part of this process, according to Premeds. I mean, it's not the least total, but it's the most overrated part, definitely. Is 200 enough? Probably. Depends on what school you're applying to. Maybe some of the more super heavy research focused schools may want more. If you're applying MD, PhD, definitely not. So you just got to be careful there. Super lost when it comes to research. Everyone give Parambeer? Where do you put the emphasis there? Some suggestions. Where can they go get some research? Research is typically the easiest to get. You're on campus with professors. Just go to them and say hello. Like, what research are you doing? What can I help you with? What can I get involved with? If you're near an academic, and it doesn't even have to be academic, but if you're near a hospital, just go to the faculty, the attendings page, like who the physicians are in a specialty that you're interested in, and go look at the research that they're doing. Most hospital web pages on their, and we can do this experiment. I can kind of share my screen here and we can walk through this if you want to see what that might look like for looking at a hospital, looking at areas of research interest, and then potentially how to reach out. Just let me know. Paul says, 4.0 GPA, one more semester to go, shooting for 520 in April, lots of cardiovascular research. Do you think it is possible to get in or even worth it to go to Vanderbilt? The worth it to go to the Vanderbilt is only for you. My stance is that we're lucky in the US where every medical school in this country opens all of the doors for you. It's not where you go to medical school in this country. Law school, definitely, right? If you want to go work at a top law firm in New York City, you probably need to go to Harvard or Yale or whatever the top law schools are. But to go to Vanderbilt, to me, unless there's a very specific reason why you want to go to Vanderbilt, like you want to go watch their football team lose all the time, that's like, great, go to Vanderbilt. If you want to go hang out in Nashville all the time, great, go to Vanderbilt. But outside of that, there's no specific reason why you should need to go to Vanderbilt. So yeah, go for it. Paul says, talk to your teachers. If they don't have their own, they'll always know who to ask to find you research. Definitely. What else going on? I hope you guys are ready for football season. I am. If you don't know, I'm a Florida Gator, so I'm excited to watch Gator football season this year. I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to go to a football game because I live in Colorado now. The last couple years, a club on campus has invited me to come speak, and so if they line it up with the football schedule, I'll go speak on like a Friday and then go to the game on Saturday and then come home. So that typically works. So super stoked about that. Do I need research to apply to medical school? No, you do not. Again, unless you're applying MD, PhD, I wouldn't worry about it too much. What else? What else? What else? If I have 1 week to prepare for a traditional virtual interview, what should I spend most of my time doing? I mean, I'm biased in this. I would schedule a mock interview with one of our expert advisors, former directors of admissions, to help you through that. Practice saying your answers out loud, vocalizing, as one of our advisors, Courtney, loves to say, vocalizing your answers to make sure that you get that out there as much as possible. It's not enough to just think about all of your answers. You actually need to practice saying them. So I would do a mock interview or a couple if you can. Nosh. So Nosh is following up on, do I need to have research to apply to medical school? I said, absolutely not. And then they countered with, but I want to go to a top medical school. I don't know where this idea that top medical schools equals research. The top medical schools in this fake made up world of US News and World Reports, right? You have to remember that US News and World Reports is a fake ranking created by a company to sell magazines. That is why there is a US News and World Report ranking. It's not the authority. It was created by a company to sell magazines. That is it. And part of that methodology, part of their methodology in scoring for research institutions, right? They have a primary care ranking and then they have a research ranking. The research ranking, yes, NIH and grant funding is a big part of that methodology. But that doesn't mean you need research on your application just because that institution gets a lot of money for research. Those are two different things. They're somewhat related, but they're different. And so I always tell the story of a conversation I had with someone on the admissions committee at UCSF, right? One of the more prestigious research institutions in this country. He was like, hey, just make sure like you tell students, we don't just look at students with research to get in. So, and that's not across the board. Like, does every school not care about research? No, obviously not. But does every school care about research? No, obviously not. So, yeah. All right, let's keep it rocking here. GPA 347, science 333. Early science GPA was low, 2.5 junior year, finished with 3.86 senior year, only 11 credits, and 4.0 post-bac, 40 credits. Do you think there is enough academic ability? Yeah, so here's what we're talking about when I talk about trends, right? We have a cumulative GPA of 347, which isn't terrible. I mean, it's not great, but it's not terrible. A science GPA of 333, right? It's okay. It's B plus on AMCAS. 3.3 is B plus. Not great, but we go to the trends. 51 credits at basically a 3.9 something, 3.95, right? I would say it depends on what those 40 credits are in your post-bac. Are they hard sciences? If they are hard sciences, I would say you've done enough. You have 51 credits at as close to a 4.0 as possible. That's awesome. Fantastic. It's exactly what I'm talking about when we talk about upward trends. Is an activity worth putting in your MCAT if it's under 50 hours over a year? That's up to you. Completely up to you. Define worth putting. There are going to be times where we will say, hey, like, this is only 10 hours. Why do you want to put that on there? A student will have a good answer, and we go, great, it's your application, right? That sounds reasonable. There will be other times where an activity with a couple hundred hours is like, why are you putting that on there? You have nothing to write about. So it really just depends. Is it frowned upon to not have a, quote, typical gap year job like a restaurant? I'm not sure I understand the question. I wouldn't say a restaurant job is a typical gap year job. That would be an atypical gap year job. You want to work in public health? Great. Go for it. Victory, already AMCAS verified, waiting for the MCAT. What are my chances? That is an impossible question to answer. It is not great that your MCAT score is not in yet. What are you expecting on your MCAT? What does the rest of your application look like? I mean, there are 100 variables outside of the fact that your application isn't complete. So, unfortunately, too hard to answer. How are non-clinical jobs viewed, such as volunteering at a museum? Most activity descriptions align with school mission statements. I don't know how you can align activity descriptions with school mission statements, because it's a primary application that goes out to every school that you're applying to. This is like, do you have 15 schools on your application and every activity is aligned to one of those schools? Like, don't play this game. The activity descriptions are not to focus on the school. The activity descriptions are there to focus on you. What did it mean to you? What was the impact on you? What was your impact on it? Not aligning with school missions. That's what the secondary applications are for. That's the whole reason why there's secondary applications, besides making money for the school. I needed to hear this the most. You made my day, Dr. Gray. And just when I ran out of motivation to keep going, you gave me light. Thank you so much. You're welcome. I don't know what it is that I said, but you're welcome. Waitlisted for interviews. How do they pull from a waitlist interview pile of apps? It just depends on the school. Every school is going to be different with how they do. But yeah, I think a lot of people like to call a waitlist for an interview or a hold for an interview basically a soft rejection. I don't know if I would agree with the term soft rejection. I think it's just we're waiting for something better to come along. And so we'll keep you in mind, but yeah, it just depends. Let's see. Here's the first part of the question. Hey, Dr. Gray, I have a question. So I took a Bio 1 and 2 at NYU, but realized that I did not take Bio Lab. Can I still apply to med school if I haven't taken it yet? I can take it next spring. Yeah, so you don't have to have your prereqs done before applying to medical school, even if it's a required course at that school. There used to be one school a long time ago, and I don't remember what school it was, and I haven't seen anything since. And I keep saying this and telling people, if you see this school, let me know, or if you find another school, let me know, where I thought that it said you have to have your prereqs done before applying. For 99% of schools out there, if not 100% of schools, taking your prereqs while you're applying is perfectly fine. So go for it. All right. So question here. How do I build a school list? So I have a whole episode. I'll put it here. premedyears.com/437, I believe. Yep. I need to redo this episode one of these days. Building a school list is all about figuring out who you are, what you want, and finding out location, first of all, typically, and going from there. Just doing lots of research on each of the schools, figuring out what they're doing, how they interact with their community or interface with their community, what kind of research do they have going on there if you're interested in that. Where are their affiliated hospitals? What residency programs are part of those affiliated hospitals? Do they have something that you're potentially interested in so that you can get that exposure to those program directors, the residency program directors, all that good stuff. If a prereq class was taken over the summer, even though it was listed as anticipated for the fall semester due to plans changing, should we update the schools? I wouldn't worry about that. Not at all. You took the class. You did it. Good job. All right, what else? I just had my early decision MD interview. Congrats for getting that. I didn't get a chance to talk about what I'm doing now and in the future of my gap year as much as I wanted. Is it too early to send an update? I will tell you that for the interview, it has nothing about the interview. Shouldn't be about what you want to talk about. The interview is about having a conversation that the school, the interviewer, is leading. So just because you didn't fit in your agenda doesn't mean that it was a bad interview. It doesn't mean that you need to go send an update. It doesn't mean that you did anything wrong or bad. It just means you had a conversation and there were some things you wanted to talk about for whatever reason, which we can have that conversation, that you probably didn't need to worry about talking about what you're doing during your gap year, all that stuff. So I wouldn't worry about it, and I wouldn't send an update, especially for early decision. Like they're going through their process quickly. The waiting game is the hardest part. Any advice for what to do after secondaries are all submitted? Yeah, go take care of yourself. Go work on self-care, exercising, sleeping right, eating well, all that good stuff. Go enjoy your hobbies. If you're still in school, obviously continue to focus on your grades because those still matter, because every acceptance is a conditional acceptance. And if you tank your grades even after an acceptance, they'll pull that acceptance. So you just got to be careful there. Travel, if you have the means to travel, go have fun. Go do all that stuff. Any advice for non-trads who took prereq 6 years ago, how to relearn all of the materials without doing a postback since all the courses are still valid? I would say, first of all, make sure all of the courses are still valid, because every school has a little bit of a different policy around that. That data is somewhere in the MSAR. It changed recently, so it's always hard to see that. But yeah, just double check that they're still valid. And then, yeah, I mean, go hit the content books hard for the MCAT. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about in terms of relearning for the MCAT. How do I feel about Caribbean schools? Can one still match into residency in the U.S. if you attend a Caribbean medical school? Basing this off of a low MCAT and 3.3 science GPA. I did an interview. Let me see if I can find it. Is here. So this Medscape article, I was interviewed by Medscape for this article about my thoughts on Caribbean schools. The short version is you shouldn't go to a Caribbean school unless you have to go to a Caribbean school. So ideally, trying to get into a U.S. institution, 1, 2, 3 times, whatever, and then go to a Caribbean school. Can you match into residency? Of course. I would only typically look at the kind of the big 4 Caribbean schools. There are some newer schools out there that maybe have some good reputations as well. But the big 4, they're called, Caribbean medical schools, are generally the safer ones to go to. You got to be careful. Going to a Caribbean medical school doesn't make medical school easier. It makes it harder. There's much more pressure on you. Is statistics a prereq for medical school? Depends on the med school. Could be. So this is where I would go to. Let me see if I can show it here. See how this is working. Oh, actually, here, if I come here. So this is a document. Strolling on the beach now. This is a document. The MSAR PDF of all of the MD prereqs. And so I'll put that link. I'll put it over here on Instagram. I'll put it here on YouTube. We'll come back to this. So I can search in here for statistics. Math. Required. Biostatistics. So that's a random one. I know it's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom in here. Biostatistics at University of Alabama is required. And so you can search. I don't know if you can see my search bar. I'm just searching statistics space math space REQ for required. And so you can see University of Arkansas, statistics is required. University of Arizona. I'm assuming that's the Tucson campus because it doesn't say Phoenix. Math is required. So yeah, it just depends on the school. And then if you look at, so there's 30 schools on here that have some sort of statistics required, whether it's biostatistics or regular statistics. But if we then look at recommended, there are 42 where some sort of statistics show that it's recommended. So that's what I would do there. What makes an MD PhD applicant stand out? So my general, just the way that I talk about this stuff is that there's nothing that gets you to stand out. Everything's been done. If you're like, oh, 5,000 hours of research, that will help me stand out. There are applicants with 10,000 hours of research. If you're like, oh, like I discovered this novel thing in my research, it's been done before. And so there's really nothing to help you stand out. It's all about the story that you tell in the application and how you are able to reflect on your experiences and then communicate them through the application, through your writing. Now, an MD PhD applicant, you have your personal statement, your 15 activity descriptions, and then you have your research essay. And then you have your MD PhD essay. And so there's more stuff to write about and more for you to communicate who you are and why you want this and what you've done and the impact that you have and the impact that you want to have. That's what stands out, is how you are able to take all of your experiences and then communicate them through the application and through your interviews. And that's what we do as a team at medical school headquarters, right? My former directors of admissions who work with students one-on-one, the majority of what we're doing is not telling students the secret activity that's going to help them stand out. It's helping them show their impact through their writing and their interviewing. Should I add that I worked for a school district and a maintenance worker for 3 summers just to humanize and show variability in my application? This is a wonderful question, because this is the heart of the problem that the majority of medical school applicants have, is you think your application has to be, look at me as a future physician. That is not what the application is. The application is, look at me as a person. Look at me as what I have done in my life. So should you add that you worked at a school district and a maintenance worker for 3 summers? Yes, because that's what you did, not because it humanizes you. I had an applicant many years ago who didn't get into med school, took a look at his application, very non-traditional student. He had 3 activities on his application, 3. I'm like, you've been out of school for 10 years. What have you been doing this whole time? He's like, oh, like I have a lot of other things. I just didn't put it on the application because it's not related to medical school. And I was just like, no, that's not the goal of the application. It's just to highlight who you are in medicine or as a future physician. It's to highlight who you are, period. I had this conversation with another student who asked me when I was giving a talk in front of a classroom she said, hey, like my advisor told me I should stop coaching girls soccer, right? Like youth girls soccer, because it's not related to medicine. And I said, baloney. It's who you are. If you want to coach girls soccer because you're passionate about it and you enjoy it, and maybe it gives you some exercise to go out and run with the girls, whatever, do it. Your application does not have to focus on showing you are this like robot pre-med student. So yeah, put it on there if you want. If you're like, wasn't that important to me? Then don't. You don't have to. How much do older course withdrawals matter? They don't. If you've shown some upward abilities and trends, no concerns at all. All right, friends, I'm going to run out. I got to jump onto another call here in a couple minutes. I hope you have a wonderful Friday. Don't forget to subscribe, to go follow the Pre-Med Years in Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Go check out Med School Years now if you're past that, the pre-med process. Or if you just want to hear from medical students talking about their med school life. Because on the Pre-Med Years, we talk to medical students who are talking about their pre-med journey. And Med School Years is focusing on med school and residency applications and all that good stuff. So go enjoy those. Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, we do pre-med office hours where you can come ask questions. Thursdays, although we're going to change it to Tuesdays here in a couple weeks, at 2 p.m. Eastern, we do MCAT office hours that we need some more people at. So if you're in the process of getting ready to study for the MCAT or in the process of studying for the MCAT, come ask all your questions there as well. All right, friends, I will talk to you later. See you.